So this is a weird one. I know what a lot of you are thinking, and that is, Cavan, haven't you already done a tutorial on the second deal? And the answer to that is yes, I have. And in fact, recently it became my most viewed video, which is very strange. Apparently now I'm no longer the Blackpool Magic Convention video guy, I'm the second deal guy, which I kind of prefer that, actually. I'm definitely not the second deal guy. And in fact, when I re-watched that video recently, I just sort of thought that I disagreed with quite a lot of what I'd said, and I don't think it's the best tutorial in the world, so I thought I'd remake the video. I never do this, I've never remade a video. I'm certainly not doing it for the views. I'm doing this because I genuinely think I have something to add to it, and hopefully this tutorial will develop what I said in that video, but also be a blank slate. If you've never learnt the second deal before, hopefully this can be your into the second deal, and it's a move that I really like and use quite a lot. So let's get into this tutorial of the second deal again. For this tutorial, we're going to be using the Dystopian Deck, as I have been using in recent videos, because this deck is currently available on Kickstarter. So if you like the look of this deck that I'm using in this video, it is designed by me in collaboration with Aryaha, who's a very talented designer, and together we put together this deck. So we're going to start with a demonstration of the move, of course. So this is the second deal. We have the deck with the Queen of Diamonds face up on top, and this is what it looks like. Now, as you can tell, I am dealing cards to the table, but that top card, the Queen of Diamonds, is remaining exactly where it is. And this is one of my favourite ways to use this move, by demonstrating that a card can remain on top of the deck while cards are apparently being fairly dealt. And that in itself, I think, looks magical. So one of the ways that I really like to use this is as a demonstration to my audience. I will say what I'm doing. I won't explain it obviously quite in as much detail as I will in this video, but I'll explain the basic principle that I'm dealing underneath the top card. And I think that is entertaining. I think that is really powerful for an audience, because they're seeing this and they're being let behind the curtain just a little bit, to the point where it is entertaining. But then obviously there are a ton of tricks that use this move when the card is face down on top of the deck. For instance, like so. You cannot tell that you're being swindled. You cannot tell you are being fooled here, and that is a great deception. Now there's a few things going on here that are different to how I explained it in that video, because obviously I adapt with time. I'm not saying that what I said was entirely wrong in that video, it's just a different way of doing it. The move should look so normal. It should look just like you are dealing cards to the table as you normally would. There should be no discernible difference between this and this. So here I am alternating between first and second. So that's a first, second, first, second, first, second, first, second. So the way I'm going to explain this is by breaking it down. We have the deck of cards, in this case in my left hand, and we are holding it in this grip. So this isn't a death grip, this isn't really tight. You're just allowing the deck to drop into a comfortable position where your thumb is able to move around. What I would say is, whatever grip feels comfortable for you is the grip you should use for every deal. Whether it's center, middle, Greek, second, top, third, fourth, ninth, I don't care. It's the same grip. Because if you do something different, if you hold the deck in a different way for each grip, obviously I'm being silly here, but if you move your hand at all and change grip, then you're basically telling your audience that something is going to happen, something different is going to happen. So you hold the cards exactly as you would hold them. I'm not going to give too much specific information on where my fingers are, and I think that's one of the mistakes I made in the previous video, because every grip is different. So many of the comments were like, oh, I hold the cards in a different way. That's fine, that is totally fine. You can hold the cards however you feel comfortable. So the thumb is now going to contact the top card, and when you deal a card normally, this is what happens. It goes off to one side, we take the card and we place it down. Just like so. This is normal, fair dealing. You move the card, you grab it, you put it onto the pile of cards you're dealing. And the same thing is going to happen with the second deal. This card is going to be moved out of the way so that you have what we call the brief, which is this gap here below the top card, exposing the second card. And the only thing really that's going to be different is, instead of taking the card here and dealing it, we're going to be taking the card here. So it's just higher up. No one's going to notice this discrepancy, but what it means is your thumb can strike, and this is called a strike second deal. Your thumb is going to strike this card and pull it away. The way I suggest practicing doing this, and knowing exactly how much pressure to apply with this thumb right here, is by leaving that brief open and taking cards like so. Because let's see what happens if I apply too much pressure with my thumb. it's really tough to get those cards out. But things like pressure of the thumb will come with practice, so you're not going to get that down straight away. Now, you'll notice when I do the full dealing, that actually the hands aren't moving too much. We're not swinging our arms around. That's another thing that was slightly wrong about the previous video, is that my arms were swinging, and that's because that genuinely was how I dealt all cards. If I was dealing fairly, I would swing my arms around like this. And I have since changed that, and at the time that was my style, which is why I obviously said it in that tutorial. I no longer agree with that. I think that the swinging action just makes it a little bit too unclear exactly what's happening. And the last thing you want in something like this is for your audience to not be 100% certain what's going on. So if you make the dealing simple with small movements and very honest, it's a very honest deal. Your hands are barely moving at all here. But in that slight movement here, at this moment, you are hiding the action. So the action that's going to happen is obviously opening that brief, but this is going to be opening and closing. So the next thing you really need to focus on is not just being able to take cards from the brief, but being able to time the opening and closing of that brief with taking the cards. So this brief is going to be opened as if the card is about to be taken here, and if it was to be taken here, the deck looks like this. So when we're doing a second deal, when we take the second card, the deck still needs to look like this. It returns to that position. So we open the brief, we take the card, we open the brief, we take the card. And there's another final little discrepancy, and I know I'm going through this at speed, but I will come back to these details. Another little discrepancy which you'll notice when I do the full dealing, which is this slight move called the tilt. And all it does is it's very natural. If I were to deal cards normally like so, this tilt would still exist. I'm not adding anything artificial here. This still exists in a fair deal. But in a second deal, it plays a really important role. You're not seeing the second being taken. You're seeing this moving. I'm not trying to hide the full move. Another thing that I got slightly wrong in that second deal tutorial was the idea that you're hiding this opening. You don't need to hide the opening because this isn't an opening to the audience. This is the card that's about to be dealt. So you don't need to hide that. That's not a moment you need to hide. And in fact, often when I do a second deal, I get into this position and then I deal. And that looks like, when you follow it with your eyes, that looks like, here's the card that's going to be dealt, and now it's been dealt. And of course, that's not what's happening. If I expose from this side, here's the card that's going to be dealt, and here's it being dealt. And you saw then, obviously, from behind, you saw pretty much what happened, that the second card was taken. So, let's go through those details one last time. I know there's a few of them. If we break it down, we've got the thumb movement, the opening and closing of the brief. We have the tilt, which is just a slight, it's not too fast, it's not too aggressive, probably shouldn't do that. It's not too fast or aggressive, you're just tilting away. And finally we have the dealing action, and this hand here should be the one that does most of the movements, if you like. So this is going to be the one that is taking the cards from the deck and away to the pile. Now you'll notice here in this particular position when I do the second deal that I'm actually not tilting all that much. You'll notice that I am keeping the top of this deck fairly visible, and that's because the tilt isn't entirely necessary once you're good at it. Now, I'm not claiming here to be the best second dealer in the world or even an expert at it, but I know that once you are past a certain comfort zone, a certain level of confidence with this move, that the tilt isn't entirely necessary. So if I start again with the rest of the deck, you'll notice that the tilt here is hiding this brief being opened. But if I don't do the tilt, it's not the end of the world. You'll notice that it's still fairly invisible. So there's a lot of things that are being timed here, and timing is so important with the second deal. If we do a second deal in slow motion and break down exactly what's happening, hopefully this will give you some idea of the timing. But again, that comes with practice, that comes with the sort of rhythm. Not speed, but rhythm and consistency. You don't need to do it fast to hide it. In fact, you can do it very, very slow. So even when I do this in super slow motion in a second, the timing, the rhythm should still be even. So we're in this position, we're ready to deal a card. As I approach here, the brief opens. It opens quite quickly, ready for this card to be taken. My hand approaches, I tilt, my thumb here strikes this card, and it's going to pull it straight out, and as it does, that's one action. So if we do that bit again, this is one action as it closes. And all of this happens under the cover. I mean, look at this. This just looks like those cards are being dealt. And every so often I might sort of misfire, like then I'll leave that mistake in, that's an honest one. Because every so often you just lose your thumb, you lose your grip, and if that happens, that's not a bad thing. Because that still happens when I deal cards fairly. If I deal a fair pile here, like there, I'm dealing a fair pile, but I'm still making these tiny little mistakes, and I think having those, although they're not done on purpose, if they do happen, if you do ever so slightly slip with a card, or, you know, drop one, or whatever the mistake might be, I think that's okay. I think those slight errors are natural, because we're not a dealing machine, and we shouldn't look like a dealing machine, because dealing shouldn't look like something you've practiced. This is just dealing cards. To a spectator, this is just dealing cards in a pile, and it shouldn't look like something that you've had to rehearse over and over and over again, because why would you? And I think the more polished it is, in a way, the more weird it looks, because a spectator will go, wow, you are very good at dealing cards. Hold on a minute. If you're very good at dealing cards, you could be doing some sort of funny deal. They might not know what it's called, a bottom deal, a second deal, whatever, but they'll know that something's wrong. They'll know that something's off, because why are you so good at that? Why have you practiced that so much? And obviously you should be practicing the second deal a lot, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it shouldn't look like you've practiced it a lot. It should look raw and honest and natural. So that is a massive #1 piece of advice. So pretty much that is the second deal, and I know that this is a very brief explanation, but basically this is a correction video from my last one. I think that a lot of what I said still stands, especially when it comes to the psychology, the body language, where your eyes should be looking. All of that's really, really important. So I'm not going to repeat myself too much, but I do want to just sort of add in and say that, yeah, sometimes I make mistakes, sometimes I say things that I don't agree with, and I don't think me standing defiantly saying, this is correct and it will always be, I don't think that's right. Maybe in the future I will make correction videos on other tutorials. My style is changing. I'm only young, I'm still adapting, still evolving, and I think being honest when I say something that I don't agree with, I think that's fair. That second deal video was a while ago, a lot's changed since then, so I don't feel too bad about doing that, and hopefully you found this video helpful. And if you want to check out the deck of cards that I was using in this video, this is the Dystopian Deck. It is a deck set in a dark future where the people have been silenced and oppressed and their objects have been removed. The back design features watchtowers and barbed wire as the border. This is a dark deck, a unique concept, and a bit of world building in a deck of cards, something that I hadn't seen done before and really wanted to bring into the card community. So if you want to make this deck a reality, or you want to help it along the way, you can pledge any amount. Doesn't matter, if you pledge £1, that is massively appreciated. There are Camp 52 collector packs that are currently available. They are £4, you get a couple of cards from the deck and a signed commemorative unique business card. But if you want to go for a full deck, they're just £15, so make sure to click the Kickstarter link in the description. And thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate you choosing to learn some magic from myself, and if you did enjoy it, make sure to click the thumbs up button down below and subscribe to the channel if you're new and you've never seen a video from me before. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you very soon.